The streets of Los Angeles have become a battleground, and it's not just about immigration anymore. Federal agents are now arresting U.S. citizens who dare to document their operations, sparking outrage and raising serious questions about constitutional rights in America. In Los Angeles, nurse and community activist Amanda Trebach was released from federal custody this weekend without criminal charges, after she was violently arrested early Friday morning while recording the operations of federal immigration agents in the area. But Amanda's story is just the tip of the iceberg in what's becoming a nationwide pattern of federal overreach that's shocking even legal experts. What happened to Amanda Trebach should terrify every American who believes in the First Amendment.
Depot near MacArthur Park on Wednesday. More than a dozen people were detained outside the store on Wilshire Boulevard in the Westlake area in an operation they called Trojan Horse, according to the Department of Homeland Security. They went on to say, quote, Border Patrol conducted a targeted raid that resulted in the arrest of 16 illegal aliens from Guatemala, Mexico, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Video from News Chopper 4 also showed a Penske moving truck at the operation. Penske Trucking Company later released a statement saying in part it strictly prohibits the transportation of people in the cargo area of its vehicles, and they were not made aware that its trucks would be used and did not authorize this.
The scale of these operations has reached unprecedented levels, with federal agents conducting massive raids across Los Angeles. In one recent operation near MacArthur Park, more than a dozen people were detained in what authorities called a coordinated enforcement action. The operation resulted in 16 arrests of individuals from Guatemala, Mexico, Honduras, and Nicaragua, with agents using unmarked vehicles, including a rented moving truck, to transport detainees, a practice that has drawn sharp criticism from civil rights advocates. She was participating in a peace patrol outside Terminal Island, a Coast Guard base that's used by ICE and Customs and Border Protection as a hub to prepare and deploy agents for raids across California. Dozens of volunteers have routinely stationed outside Terminal Island to monitor the movement of the federal vehicles streaming in and out of the staging area. This is completely legal activity. Citizens have every right to observe and document government operations in public spaces. But that didn't stop federal agents from taking brutal action. Video footage of the arrest shows something that looks more like a police state than America. Two plainclothes, masked agents are seen pinning Trebach against the pavement, kneeling on her back as they handcuff her. In one disturbing moment, an agent puts his knee directly on her head as witnesses scream for him to stop. The audio captures Trebach's desperate pleas to "get off me" as the agents maintain their aggressive restraint. This isn't an isolated incident. A Capital and Maine review of local reporting, video, and social media posts found at least 9 citizens were taken into custody by agents with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or U.S. Customs and Border Protection, after protesting near or observing immigration raids in the Los Angeles area since June 6th. Think about that for a moment. 9 American citizens arrested simply for exercising their constitutional rights to observe and document government activities. The scope of what's happening is staggering. Between June 6th and June 22nd, immigration enforcement teams arrested 1,618 immigrants for deportation in Los Angeles and surrounding regions of Southern California, the Department of Homeland Security confirmed to Cal Matters last week. During that time, masked agents have arrested car wash employees, farm workers, U.S. citizens, and people attending their immigration court hearings. This isn't targeted enforcement, it's a dragnet operation that's sweeping up anyone who happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. What makes this even more disturbing is the pattern of racial profiling that's emerging. Reports of citizens of Latino descent being detained or stopped and asked to prove citizenship are rippling through Latino communities. Trujillo said Downey, a prosperous community of 110,000 known as the Mexican Beverly Hills, because about 75% of its population is Latino, has seen several ICE raids recently. Now, many Mexican Americans there carry their passports, just in case, she said. American citizens are now carrying their passports in their own country because they're afraid of being arrested by their own government. The constitutional violations are so blatant that a federal judge has stepped in. A federal judge said there's evidence what they're doing is illegal. It came a little more than a week after public counsel, the American Civil Liberties Union, and other groups filed an emergency class action lawsuit, alleging that ICE and Border Patrol agents are engaged in widespread racial profiling, arresting people they encounter in public solely because they have brown skin or because they're doing work often done by immigrants. The judge's findings are damning. But Tajsar pointed Judge Frimpong to numerous videos of recent immigration raids, press reports, and sworn declarations from Vasquez Perdomo and other people swept up that he said prove federal agents are detaining people who look Latino on the assumption that they're immigrants, even though they know nothing else about them. They're engaging in roving patrols in which they're stopping people first and asking questions later, Tajsar said. Let's be clear about what the law actually requires. In order to stop someone in public and arrest them without a warrant, an immigration agent must at least have reasonable suspicion that they're in the country illegally. Federal courts have ruled a person's appearance alone is not enough, but that's exactly what's happening across Los Angeles and other cities. The human cost of these operations is devastating. Take the case of Job Garcia, a U.S. citizen and photographer who was documenting a raid outside a Home Depot. MALDEF is representing Job Garcia, a photographer who was detained last month while recording video of Border Patrol and ICE agents conducting a raid outside the Home Depot. Federal agents held Garcia in detention for 24 hours, despite having confirmed he was a U.S. citizen with no criminal warrants or any reason to suspect he'd committed a crime, MALDEF alleges. Garcia's account of his treatment is harrowing. Garcia said agents had pressed their hands against his neck and their knees against his back while lying on the floor. I thought this is probably what George Floyd felt, he wrote in a post on Instagram following his release. And I wondered if this was the end for me because I started to notice a disruption in my breathing. The psychological impact extends far beyond those directly arrested. Families are living in fear, children are afraid to go to school, and entire communities are being terrorized. Agents were attempting to detain the woman, a 57-year-old street vendor, when she suffered a heart attack. She was later hospitalized. Hermosillo recognized her as a fixture in the neighborhood who sells tamales in the same spot every day. A grandmother selling tamales had a heart attack while being arrested by federal agents. This is the reality of what's happening in American communities right now. The government's response to criticism has been to double down and attack the media. Tricia McLaughlin, a Department of Homeland Security spokesperson, told Axios that recent reports of citizens wrongly being arrested are false, and that the media is shamefully peddling a false narrative to demonize ICE agents. But the evidence is overwhelming, documented in court filings, video footage, and sworn testimony from multiple sources. What's particularly troubling is the apparent quota system driving these arrests. Pursuing the Trump administration's daily quota of 3,000 arrests, federal agents have ripped through predominantly Latino cities and neighborhoods. We've got a lot of danger here when you have raids that are not really thought out, just to meet a daily quota. With U.S. citizens getting caught in the crosshairs, Shira Scheindlin, a retired federal judge, told CNN's Pamela Brown last week. The data reveals the true nature of these operations. Federal data obtained by the Cato Institute shows 65% of the people booked into ICE detention since October 2024 have no criminal convictions. More than 93% of those booked were never convicted of violent offenses, according to the Libertarian Research Center. Despite claims about targeting dangerous criminals, the vast majority of people being arrested have no criminal record whatsoever. Community organizers like Ron Gochez from Unión del Barrio are speaking out against what they see as fascist tactics. This is just another example of the Trump administration and their fascist ICE agents, or whoever they are because they're unidentified, violating the rights and breaking the law that they're supposed to protect, says Ron Gochez, an organizer with Unión del Barrio. The use of unidentified agents is particularly concerning from a constitutional perspective. When law enforcement officers operate without clear identification, it becomes impossible for citizens to know who is detaining them or to hold anyone accountable for misconduct. This is a hallmark of authoritarian regimes, not democratic societies. Legal challenges are mounting across the country. 22 people, including a U.S. citizen from Chicago, subjected to unlawful arrests and detention by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, IC, in the early weeks of the second Trump administration, are asking a federal court to demand the release of 2 people still detained and additional remedies to avoid future unlawful arrests. The pattern extends beyond Los Angeles. Immigration officials held U.S. citizen and Albuquerque resident Jose Hermosillo for 10 days in Arizona's Florence Correctional Center after arresting him and didn't believe him when he said he was a citizen, per Arizona public media. 2 U.S. citizen children in April were deported to Honduras after ICE detained their mother during a routine check-in. American children are being deported from their own country. Let that sink in.
Millions of people are living in the shadows across America right now. The Trump administration just delivered a message that has sent shockwaves through immigrant communities nationwide. The ultimatum is simple, brutal, and unprecedented in its scope. Leave voluntarily or face detention and deportation. But here's what nobody saw coming. This is not just another campaign promise. This is happening right now, and the machinery behind it is more complex and far-reaching than anyone imagined. August 9th, 2025, marked a turning point that immigration attorneys are calling the most aggressive enforcement action in modern American history. Sources within the Department of Homeland Security suggest that what we are witnessing is not just policy enforcement, it is a complete transformation of how America handles immigration. The question everyone is asking is not whether this will change the country, but how dramatically and how fast.
The scope of this enforcement has reached levels that many are calling the most aggressive in modern American history. Millions of undocumented immigrants now live in the shadows under a stark ultimatum: leave voluntarily or face detention and deportation. The administration has implemented the most sweeping immigration policy changes in decades, with federal agencies undergoing unprecedented restructuring to facilitate mass deportations. Yet, despite these massive efforts and resources, the operation faces significant challenges in meeting its stated goals, raising questions about both its effectiveness and its human cost. The response from Congress has been mixed. U.S. Rep. Pramila Jayapal, D-Wash, introduced legislation Wednesday to formally block immigration and customs enforcement from detaining or deporting U.S. citizens. Though in May, House Republicans killed a measure in Trump's big budget bill that would have stopped ICE from being able to deport or detain U.S. citizens. The amendment, sponsored by Jayapal, would have prevented any funds earmarked for ICE from being used to detain or deport citizens. What we're witnessing represents a fundamental breakdown of constitutional protections. The Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. The First Amendment protects the right to observe and document government activities. The 14th Amendment guarantees equal protection under the law. All of these are being violated systematically. The historical context makes this even more chilling. Terminal Island, where Amanda Trebach was arrested, has a dark history. It was once a thriving Japanese-American fishing village that was demolished during World War II, its residents forcibly sent to internment camps. Now it's being used as a staging ground for immigration raids that are sweeping up American citizens based on their appearance. Community organizations are fighting back with documentation, legal challenges, and peaceful resistance.
50 different organizations. They held their rally and march at MacArthur Park, demanding people to not support Home Depot because they believe Home Depot is no longer a safe place for immigrants given the recent immigration raids outside the stores. Today's demonstration was to send a message of solidarity, to stand with their immigrant community to help protect them.
It's important because it's making a change. It's letting ICE know that we're not going to be scared. This is our part. You're not going to keep taking our black and brown people, our indigenous people.
And we want the LAPD to protect the people, to protect the folks that they're sworn to protect. And we also want people to be taken out of detention, out of deportation proceedings.
The response has been powerful and unified. At MacArthur Park, 50 different organizations have come together to form the Boycott Home Depot Coalition, rallying against businesses that allow ICE operations on their property. Protesters have made their message clear. They will not be intimidated by ICE, and they demand that local police departments protect their communities rather than collaborate with federal immigration enforcement. The solidarity shown by these diverse groups, from labor unions to faith organizations to civil rights advocates, demonstrate that this fight transcends immigration status and speaks to fundamental American values of justice and human dignity. Trebach, who is part of the community group Unión del Barrio, was released Saturday after intense community pressure. The power of organized community response cannot be underestimated. When people stand together and demand accountability, even federal agencies are forced to respond. The broader implications for American democracy are profound. When federal agents can arrest citizens for documenting government activities, when people are detained based solely on their appearance, when quotas drive law enforcement rather than actual criminal activity, we are witnessing the erosion of the constitutional principles that define our nation. This isn't just an immigration issue, it's a civil rights crisis that affects every American. Today they're coming for immigrants and those who document their treatment. Tomorrow it could be anyone who challenges government overreach or exercises their constitutional rights. The question facing every American is simple. Will we stand by and watch as our constitutional rights are trampled, or will we demand that our government respect the law it's sworn to uphold? The answer will determine what kind of country we leave for future generations. As this crisis continues to unfold, one thing is certain: the courage of people like Amanda Trebach, Job Garcia, and countless others who risk their safety to document the truth is all that stands between us and complete government impunity. Their cameras are our windows into what's really happening on America's streets, and what we're seeing should alarm every person who believes in justice, equality, and the Constitution.